with you from grade 6, lesson 8.3, solving percent problems. Now, the book does go through lots of different ways, and there's 4 different types of problems and using a different way each time. And if you've done the lesson with your teacher and you understand that, great. But if you are struggling or if you missed, I want to go through with you using what I'm going to call a percent proportion. And every single one of these is set up the same way, in that we're going to set up a proportion, which is 2 equivalent ratios. And one of them is going to use what we're going to call this is over of, and it'll make more sense as we go through this. And the other side, you're going to be dealing with a percent. Remember that percent is out of 100. So the number that they give you as the percent over 100. And as you go through these, you'll see, keep using this format. So for these problems, some of them I've taken out of the textbook. These are all on page 221. This is problem number 7, and let me just put a little bit more of a space there. Oops. Okay. So what is what they're saying, 64% of 75 tiles. So 64% means 64 out of 100, and that is this equation that I've written here. Sorry, not this equation, this fraction or ratio, 64 over 100. Now the word of is closest to the number. They gave us 75 tiles. That number 75 is literally in the problem, closer to the word of. I don't even see the word is. So it's going to go on the bottom, because of goes on the bottom of the other ratio. Now we need to find a pattern of multiplication or division between 75 and 100. And we could do long division. But typically what you're going to see on these is that if you reduce the fractions or the ratios, it will be easier to find a pattern. So let's just make a note here. We are going to reduce to be able to find equivalent ratios using multiplication and division. So if you're not sure how to simplify, I always say if they're both even, try dividing by 2. And you can do 64 divided by 2. If you need to do the long division on the side, you can, but 6 divided by 2 is 3. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And 100 divided by 2 is 50. Now, still, I can't easily find a pattern of multiplication or division between 50 and 75. And if I look at this problem, I can simplify it more. These are still both divisible by 2. 50 divided by 2, 25. 32 divided by 2, if you need to do this over here. Do your long division. 2 goes into 3 one time. 1 times 2 is 2. 3 minus 2 is 1. Bring down the 2. And 2 goes into 12 6 times. And now, 16 over 25, we can find a pattern of multiplication division. 25 times 3 is 75. So we're going to do the same thing over here. Might have to do this over to the side. 16 times 3. 6 times 3 is 1. Is 18. 18, 8, carry the 1. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 4 is, okay. So my answer is 48. If you weren't sure how I got 25 times 3 is 75, I'm going to suggest that you start memorizing your 25. So 25 times 1 is 25. 25 times 2 is 50. 25 times 3 is 75. 25 times 4 is 100. We're going to be using those a lot when we deal with percents. So let's go on to the next problem. again from page 221, number 9, 32% of 25 pages. So 32% is 32 over 100. The number 25 is closest to the word of. Ofs go on the bottom. So if we remember our 25 facts, I just wrote them before, but 25 times 4 is 100. So we need a number times 4, meaning we could work this backwards as division, because if some number times 4 is 32, might be able to fill in your fact family there, but 32 divided by 4 is 8. And so our answer here, 32% of 25 pages is 8 pages. Okay, going on to problem 11. 72% of 350 friends. So again, 72 is our percent over 100. Just getting tired of orange. Okay. Oh, I don't have 350 is right next to the word of, so 350 goes on the bottom. Okay, I don't have a pattern here between 100 and 350. I actually happen to realize it's 3.5, but let's see what happens if we simplify. Let's just divide by 2's. So if we divide 100 by 2, let's change colors here, we get 50. That might be a little bit easier to find a pattern. And 72, let's do this work over here, divided by 2. 2 goes into 7 3 times. 3 times 2 is 6. 7 minus 6 is 1. Bring down the 2. 2 goes into 12 6 times. So this might be a little bit easier. If I cover up these zeros, 5 times 7 is 35. So 50 times 7 is 350. Doing the same thing on the top, I'm just changing the color so you can keep track of my red here. I'm going to do the same thing to the top, so 36 times 7. Which means I'm going to go over to the side here, 36 times 7. 6 times 7 is 42. 7 times 3 is 21. 21 plus 4 is 25. Whoops. Let's try this again. 7 times 3 is 21. 21 plus 4 is 25. And so the answer is 252. So 72% of 350 friends is 252 friends. Okay, now we're going to be a little different. We're going to have to find the percent. Oh, I didn't fill this one. 4 students is blank percent. So clearly on this one, we don't know what percent we're finding, so it's going to be something over 100. So this number 20 is closest to the word of. It's going to go on the bottom. And that means that this number 4 students, is closer to the word is than it is to the word of. It's going to go on the top. And I've suggested that you memorize this math fact. 20 times 5 is 100. So I'm going to do the same thing on the top. 4 times 5 is 20. Next problem. Again, we're finding a percentage. What percent? So some number over 100. And then we have of 50. So 50 went on bottom because 50 is closer to the word of. and is 35 shirts. 35 is closer to the word is. That goes on top. This one's a little simpler. 50 times 2. So we're going to do 35 times 2. So 5 times 2 is 10. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 70. And so the answer is 70% of 50 shirts, 35 shirts. Next problem. Now we're finding next to the word of. How do I know this? Because they gave me a percentage. 4% is 4 over 100. The number 56 is right by the word is, and you can see the blank is right next to the word of. So let's figure this out here. What am I multiplying 4 by to get 56? I'm not sure, but could I do it the other way? Could I divide? If you'd prefer to, could I divide both of these by, could I divide them both by 2 and I would get 2 over 50. And then, by the way, I could divide them both by 2 again. I would get 1 over 25. And that way I actually wouldn't have to check anything. 1 times what number? 1 times 56 is 25. Oh, but now I'm going to have to do some double-digit multiplication over here. I'm going to have to take 25, and I'm going to have to multiply it by 56. So to do my double-digit multiplication, I'm first going to multiply by my ones digit, the 6's. So 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 3 more is 15. Over here, I've multiplied by the 6, which is my ones digit. Now I'm going to multiply by the 5, which is my tens digit. And I'm going to change colors so I know which numbers I'm using here. 5 times 5 is 25. So now I know I'm using this 2, not this red 3. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 more is 12. And then when I add all this up, I get 0. 5 plus 5 is 10. Carry the 1. 2 plus 1 is 3, plus another one is 4. And so my answer is 1,400 days. Next one, 60 minutes is 20% of some number of minutes. So of, my blank is closest to the word of. That's what I'm finding. By the way, 60 is closer to the word is than it is of. It's going on top. 20% is my percent over 100. I could simplify this, but hope you might be able to do this really kind of simple in your head. 20, so 2 times 3 is 6. So 20 times 3 is 60. 100 times 3 is 300. Let's try a few word problems. At the shelter, 15% of the dogs are puppies. There are 60 dogs at the shelter. How many are puppies? So, a few ways we can do this. First of all, 15%, 15 over 100. By the way, okay, of is going with dogs. And they told me that there are 60 dogs. You can also do what's called here part. You can think about it this way. Part is your is. Of is your whole. So puppies are a type of dog, right? They're baby dogs. So they are part of the entire whole grouping of, they are part of the whole grouping of the animals there. So if we have 60 dogs, we could have 1 puppy and 59 dogs. We could have 2 puppies and 58 dogs, etc., etc. So this is the part. Okay. I'm going to simplify this. I know that 15 and 100 are both divisible by 5. 100 divided by 5 is 20. By the way, if you're like, how'd you know that? If they end in 5 or 0, they're divisible by 5. And 15 divided by 5 is 3. So I'm dividing by 5, right? And the reason I want to divide by 5 is because if I want to find a pattern between an 100 and 60 using multiplication or division, I have to do long division. It doesn't divide evenly. But I can now say, oh, I simplified, I got to 20. And to get from 20 to 60, I think I saw this before, I'm going to multiply by 3. So since I simplified over here and I got 3 times 3 is 9. And 9 of the dogs are puppies. Let's try one more. Sales tax in the town where Amanda lives is 7%. So I wrote 7 over 100. Amanda paid $35 in sales tax on a new stereo. So what was the price of the stereo? So again, this is a little bit harder because you have a part and you have a whole. So this one's a lot trickier if you ask me. The best I could say is obviously the tax would be less than the stereo. So you can also start to see in these, the smaller number is on top. To get from 7 to 35, we're going to multiply by 5. We do the same thing on the bottom. 100 times 5 is 500. So I hope this has helped you solve these problems using this ratio is over of and percent over 100. Thanks for watching.